To Take the Helm podcast, where we will share stories, experiences, data, and best practices with industry leaders, friends, and dealers. From market conditions to insights, leadership development to tough conversations, take the helm.
Good day, everybody. John Green here with Lead Helm. Great to see you again. Thanks for tuning in. And as you've listened to these, hopefully this is not the first one you've seen. I'm always excited to do these, and I always share a reason for my excitement, but there's always one primary reason, right? We get to talk about how do we sell more units and how do we do it with a great customer experience. So anytime we can do that, that's the sole reason that we exist at Lead Helm. How do we help dealers convert more leads, sell more units, have more happy customers, and everybody wins if we can do that. So we're going to cover some of that today. But additionally, added excitement today because it's not just Aaron and I talking about stuff, right? So we have actual real dealer guests today that are joining us. So I'll go through a couple intros. So first, Aaron, always good to see you, co-founder of Lead Helm. Aaron, what's some good news today? What do you got?
I was sharing with the guys here earlier. It's hot in Florida. Got a good workout in this morning, feeling good, ready for a good remainder of this week. But excited to be here with some very, very special guests and had some relations with this team for quite a long time. So excited to have you guys here, and yeah, it's good.
Good for you, Aaron. Got that workout in early. That always makes you feel better for the day. I know that.
Yes, feel good. Sorry.
And we've also got, I'm gonna introduce these guys, and then we're gonna circle back around and you're gonna hear a lot more from them. So I've got from Team Winnebagoland. This is a two store dealer group out of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So I have Nick Van Zeeland and Chris Ertl from those two stores. And I've known these guys in a couple different capacities now, right? Back from the moderating garage composites days where I first met you. Know your dad fairly well, and then now in the Lead Helm capacity. So guys, we'll hear from you in a little bit, but thank you for taking the time. And I'm glad you're here and excited to hear where you're going to take us today with some of your stories. We've also got Kyle Johnson from Pigtrail, Harley Davidson here from Rogers, Arkansas. So just outside of Bentonville, where you've got Walmart headquarters and so forth. And there's some similarities, as you'll start to hear, between the two dealerships and how these folks have been involved and families and so on and so forth. So Kyle, welcome. Thank you again for taking the time. And again, just as true gratitude from us, right? These are clients of ours, but they're also general managers, owners, chief financial officers of these businesses. So for them to take time out of their hectic schedules, we really do appreciate that. So real world update, right, on what's happening right here. Who are these dealers? Where'd they come from? How are they seeing the market today? What are their leadership styles? And then we will focus at some point through here on digital, obviously, right? That's the space we live in. These two groups have done really, really, really well with digital, kind of coming at it from different angles, but I'd like to hear their perspective on what's the opportunity, right? What's their view on digital today and going forward? And then maybe we'll see what kind of advice or guidance they may share with the audience when we get through that. So we're going to dive right into this. Right? So I think let's start. Kyle, let's kick off with you. Maybe just a little bit of background on you and the dealership there. We shared a little of that before we went on air here this morning. It's a great story. So let's see how you got in the chair.
Cool. Yeah. So thanks for having me. Pigtrail opened in 2006. My father and mother opened it. He came from a background of retail, Walmart, Sam's Club for over 25 years. Love motorcycles, and the opportunity arose in this market for a new dealership point. So they were able to earn that. And I was about 20 at that time, going to the University of Arkansas. So got an opportunity to work part-time in the store as a porter, cleaning, bikes, the store, trash. And through it, ended up falling in love with the industry, the customer, the event experience, the passion for motorcycles, and the, just Harley motorcycles are iconic. So it was cool. I had visions of, being investments, and kind of decided I like this versus having to go wear a tie somewhere. Coming out of college, got more involved, got into a riding academy, rentals, and basic marketing position. And then from there moved to sales and finance, where I spent about 7 years finance and assistant sales manager. And then 2018, an opportunity arose for general manager, and I have been there since.
Yeah, that's it's. I love that you're going to hear another generational story from Team Winnebagoland as well. But I think what's interesting, what comes from that, right, is, and sometimes we don't necessarily see this with some of the dealers that just out of circumstance that we work with, but the credibility, right, of a leader who actually knows and has worked and understands all the roles inside of a dealership. I think sometimes we lose sight as leaders of the fact that, you really need to you should be able to step into almost any role in that store and do it. Lead by example. There's empathy for the other employees in those roles that comes from that. So I think those things that's a testament to why the stores are performing well. Part of it, right? Some of it is hard work and investment and the things that you guys do. But I think that respect that comes from the staff, knowing that you've done all those roles. And I think that's a big piece. Yeah. So that's good. And Chris, Nick, you guys take us through the evolution of Team Winnebagoland from what is a fairly significant milestone for you guys this year.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for having us. Just getting to know you guys in the last year has been a lot of fun and challenging at times, but we're growing through some of the friction, and we're learning a lot together. We're celebrating 50 years at the dealership. We're third generation family owned business. Thank you.
Nice.
My grandpa started it in 1974. My dad and his two brothers, right out of high school, started working for him. And now myself, my brother, and my sister are now working in the business. We each pretty much came into the business right out of high school also. Other than myself, I went to like a boot camp for a couple of years. I tease. I worked construction, and I found out that wasn't what I wanted to do. And then I got smart enough to work in the family business. So all three of us have had roles in the business. We've been sales manager, parts person, lot tech, garbage boy, similar to how Kyle's talking. And it's just like John said, it's important to get that experience, to know the job, to be able to teach the job. And I think after going through that whole process, that's been my favorite part of this business. It's not necessarily just selling motorcycles and boats. It's been mentoring, teaching, learning, and just getting to know how each person operates, to how to get them motivated. That's my joy.
Yeah.
And you've had Chris, your right hand man there with you for some years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been 13 years now. So I would say pretty similar to Kyle. I went to school thinking I was going to be a big shot banker, and put a tie on every day, and did that for 3 years after I got out of college, and realized that that's not for me. So when Tom called me, so Nick's older brother, who I bought a motorcycle from a couple years before that, right out of high school, said, "Hey, we're building a finance department. What do you think about coming here and doing that?" And I was like, well, I get to deal with people back when online banking first was a thing. Everybody coming in saying, "Hey, I don't recognize this charge or that charge," and upset, and they took my money and did that. And I'm like, well, I can deal with unhappy people all day, or I can deal with people that are excited to buy something and have a smile on their face spending money. So made that change, worked in the finance department for 6 years, helped build that department, and then went over to the marine store and ran that for 5 years. And now here we are thinking growth.
Absolutely. And I won't share any of that, but there's some excitement there. And I can tell you from working with you guys in the 20 club environment, what Chris or somebody like Chris provides to an organization from a data standpoint and an analysis standpoint is absolutely critical, right? We can't manage these business without accurate data.
Yeah.
Right. It just
Absolutely.
Data's results. We can't change those results, but we can glean information from the data about process and behavior, and those things we can change, and that should produce a better result. So having somebody on the team that does that kind of work and provides that level of insight like Chris does is really cool. So
yeah.
All right, so we got a little bit of the background there. Let's talk a little bit, if we can, just talk to us a little bit, and we can stay with Team Winnebagoland on this one right now. Culture of the store, right? Leadership style, philosophy, so on and so forth, right? We're going through this and see, are there some similarities in how you lead, in the culture you try to create that allows you to both have very successful businesses selling different product in completely different markets, but being successful even in challenging times. So what's the style there at Team Winnebagoland?
Yeah.
How would you say that the culture is there?
Yeah. I mean, we all know the word culture, right? It's a word that we love to use, but it is an important word, and it's important to let the customers share that feeling also. My thoughts on culture in our stores is that we're very family driven. As you can imagine, we've grown our business from, again, my grandpa probably being a 1 to 2 man show, to my dad to being a 10 man to 14 man show, to today we're sitting at about 65 employees. And we've kept that ingredient of being very family orientated and really taking each staff member on as a family member. And the way that you do that is you get to know them and get to know their family and get to know what motivates them. But we've also done some nice things in the store with like a culture card. There's 10 key commandments or rules that we operate on, that we review on a weekly basis. And that just is a great reminder of what we're trying to instill in ourselves and our people. And again, the end user gets that feel, right? I mean, they're the ones that, when you have a good culture in your store, that customer is the one telling you that, wow, why is everybody happy here? Why, right? Why is they're at work? Why are they happy? And I mean, A, we do sell fun stuff, but B, when we all treat each other with respect and follow some core values and listen to each other, that's the success level. And we want to believe that we empower these people from the top down just to think like that and to hold each other accountable. So, but it's work, right? It's like being a good husband, being a good dad. It's not like you can fail 1 second and then the next second you're just getting back up and saying, hey, I screwed up, on to the next, so you got to accept failure at times too.
It's interesting on that. It really is work, right? And sometimes leaders, oftentimes, I believe, don't pay enough attention to culture because it's hard to measure, right? And everybody's taught in school, right? If you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's really
exactly.
not right? Because culture's tangible. That's what you're saying, right? Your customers and your staff feel that culture. It's hard to measure, but you measure it by repeat business and referral business and retention of staff and those things. And strong cultural businesses, I tend to think, perform better in those categories. And there's just more stability.
Exactly.
What you said there, John, to jump in real quick. Nick's point on what you work hard on there in culture is we see a large pain point, right, guys, of just staff turnover in our industry, right? And I was listening to your story, Kyle, and your story, Nick, and I'm not here to share my story, but it's very, very similar. I started at a parts counter and, just because I hated the job I had, and I thought, well, God, I ride. This is fun. I get to get parts for cheap, but I also like the love the customer, but I can make a living doing this, I think all of us could share we were developed and coached and developed and mentored through the industry. And that's I was able, like you guys, to find my second home, and some similarities in culture with I grew up with Scott Fisher Enterprises, right? Very similar to that family environment. But I think what I love about what you said, Nick, is when you do that with a new staff member or an existing staff member, a foundation that you're building on all the time is trust. So when that foundation of trust is established like that, I can see how it's really influenced your business, because you have some good staff, right? That's been with you for quite a long time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Another just quick side note, we just had a consultant in here this past week, and he was doing some things with our processes, but one of his responsibilities that he felt was to just go get to know each staff member, right? You just kind of say good morning and how are you, and some of his feedback is I cannot believe how happy everybody is to be here. They might not have all of the skills yet, but they have that drive and want to be here, right? That's that first step of just coming to work. It's like, hey, I like being here. This isn't a bad thing. And then you can start to teach the skills as they get the time in the seat. So, but yeah. I was happy to hear that feedback, because it's like, I do want to believe that work can be fun and it can be a good place to be, and not a bad thing. Like I have to. Right.
It's I get to, right?
Yes.
That's that mindset, yes. Even in your own life of stuff. You're like, right. Wow. And that's a Sam Dancer thing, right? Sam at Garage Composites, he's all about that. He's like, look, you can think about a lot of different things, but if you really get up every morning and think about what you're grateful for, and you get to go to work, and you get to go to the grocery store, and you get to do laundry, and you get to do XYZ.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't get to do any of that stuff.
Absolutely.
And so it's not have to, it's get to.
The mindset, right? Culture is ever changing, right? And understanding that your way is not the best way. So if you can find something that is working better, right, you catch on to one thing, or the generations change, being able to go along with that and be able to implement that right away, and not go, well, our way is the best way.
Yeah.
Have an open mind.
I think that's a big piece of it. Being willing to listen to that stuff, right? Because I think as soon as we decide that there's nothing to learn, it's time for us to get out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Just get out of the way on that one. Kyle, we had a few minutes before everybody jumped on this morning, right? And you guys are having probably a better year from a volume standpoint relative to last year, probably better than some dealers, particularly in Harley right now. But some of that's got to be the cultural side of it. So what's your take on leadership and culture and so forth?
Yeah, so fairly similar, family-owned business. Our culture, we want our customers to feel like they can come in and trust us. So being on a first name basis with them is something we like to talk about. People like to be called by their first name, especially in our industry. They like to see and be seen. So that's super important. And, for me, one of the important things coming in was being flexible with my team. People have lives outside of work. They're here typically more than they are at home. So whenever they have something come up, man, kid's birthday or, whatever it is, there's important things in their lives. Or if they're sick, not making them feel bad that they missed work, and being flexible.
Yeah.
To me, that's always been important, and the constant reminder is our customers do not need this product. They want it. It's not a need. They could walk away from it easily because it's not inexpensive. It's a very expensive toy, and it is our mission to make sure that they have fun. When they're in the store, people have fun, and they're in a good mood, and they're going to feel more satisfied with this product, and they're going to want to come back. I don't know if you've ever been to a place and, somebody answers the phone, or they don't have a smile on their face. Now, are we perfect? No, I mean, our team's made up of humans. I'm a human leader, so some days I'm not in the best mood. But if most of the time we're in that atmosphere and we give our customers a killer experience, we're going to earn them for life.
What I hope listeners are taken from this, right? And you really said it right, Nick. Culture is a word we toss around a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. But you guys aren't doing lip service to culture, right? I mean, you hearing from the leadership of the stores and the honest and earnest feeling that you have for your staff and for the customers, that's what drives it. Again, because nobody's going to make culture more important than the leader in the store.
Absolutely.
They're just not. So you guys have to drive it. It is hard work every single day. And we've got so many things that come at us in business. It's easy to lose sight of culture because, again, it's not tangible. It's not visible, but it really is. And so I think you guys are doing a credit to that side of it. So thanks for sharing that. Look, Aaron said it, right? Working with Scott for, 15, 18 years, probably for me, since I have 19 years. Aaron just had 20, 21 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's a lot of places you can go have a job, right? It's not hard to find a job with a paycheck, but to find a place that you feel valued and you feel heard and you feel appreciated and you trust the leadership, those are reasons people stay. And so that's kudos to you guys.
Yeah.
That's hard work.
Thank you guys. We probably all share this, and I know you well enough to know that we probably share a lot of the same values that we do at our home. Our actual home where we live. You know what I mean? And what's important to us. And so the fact that we get to go and help our staff, and influence them, to some of the values that are important, is always one of my things. Favorite part of being a leader is be able to influence and impact, those people's lives that I work with every day. But Kyle, to your comment around the fun and excitement. I've known you for a long time. That's one thing I love about you is that consistency is really important for you. And I think for a staff, consistency is important, right? Because we're trying to always change and adapt and drive process. And so the fact that you always drive consistency in the store with the staff and the excitement level that is really the expectation. Nick, you said it early on, and especially as we pivot to this, probably the next couple topics, we're in a challenging market. I mean, let's face it, it is a challenging time right now. But you said it, Nick, if we work on that culture the way that you guys are working on it, the customer wins. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I go to a lot of retail environments. I had to walk into, this was Bath and Body Works, my wife the other day, and it's interesting through COVID and through the challenges that retail's had over, let's just say the course of 3 or 4 years, how much they've changed the way that they do things. You don't get the greet when you walk in somewhere anymore.
Yeah.
You don't get the level of excitement. And they keep tailoring processes that make it to where they don't need staff to help you. And you can just self-serve, right? I went to Home Depot and I'm like, God, all of a sudden there's 50 registers, not one person, right? I have to go. So it's interesting to see how hard you guys are working on the other way. Most retail environments are trying to suck that out of it and make it easier for them to do business and it impacting the customer experience. And, you guys are working so hard to continue to influence that customer experience and the staff. So it's awesome to hear that.
Aaron, when you talk about self-serving checkouts right now and the way that the retail environment's going, it's funny. This morning, I went to the gas station, picked up my Red Bull, and I had a decision I could make. There was no line with the clerk, and there was a self-serve, station. And I didn't even think twice, but I'm like, I do not want to talk to anybody that can't really, I don't want to say enlighten my day, but I just feel like I know what the protocol was going to be. I'd rather not waste that energy, and I'd rather just do it myself. And I think that's kind of, maybe where the level of service is going in that way. It's like, it's so hard to hire and train and maintain that human perspective that why don't we just get a computer that does what really the consumer is getting anyway with that person. And it does blow my mind, right? That I do like people, but I don't like dealing with a situation that it's like, I don't want to waste my energy. So that's that level of service. So it's like, again, we need to be different in this environment, right? To keep on. And then it's probably not a difficult environment if we're actually changing because and we're not putting robots in, because I don't think putting robots in is what we need to be doing, right?
No, and I think it goes back to something that Kyle said. You guys have probably heard me say it. You guys heard me say it in the 20 Club days, right? We don't sell need-based product.
Yeah.
You guys don't, right? We do. People need lead help.
Yeah.
Right? You guys sell want-based product, right? It's the holy trinity. It's dangerous, it's expensive, and nobody needs what we sell. So the fact that we think we can go through the motions and automate things or not have great service or not have great engagement. If we think about power sports retail with that mindset, we are doomed, right? This has to be emotional. It has to be experiential, because there's a lot of angst and sometimes guilt and trauma, quite honestly, that our customers go through before they come to your front door or before they call you or before they go online, because there's somebody in their life telling them that what they're about to think about buying is really not in their best interest, because it's expensive, it's dangerous, nobody needs this, we could use blah, 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 blah. So the fact that they just get to your door, whatever door that is, we got to open up our arms and say, what a great decision. I'm glad you're here. This is awesome. We're going to change your life today, and it's going to be for the better. And that's that. Let's start to transition those in a little bit to how important you guys feel that process is, particularly in a market that is a bit challenging, right? So the challenging market obviously is fairly obvious. Okay. So we've got, on a macro scale, right, we have inflation. So costs are high. People are really mindful of their expenditures right now. Just from a budget standpoint, they have to be. Interest rates are high, right?
Don't say election.
We've got that, but you've also got some global instability that weighs on people's minds. So there's the day-to-day economic reality of our customer base. So we have that. And then we've got some other pieces, right? We've got inventory is higher. We've got, when interest rates are high and inventory is high, we've got flooring and so forth on there. So people are a little bit more reserved, I would say, and very particular about how and with whom they spend their money. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. Kyle, maybe what's your take on that? Are you seeing, obviously you've got to be seeing that the economic side of this, because it's global, certainly national. Yet you're having a really good year. So how do you do that? How do you continue to do good business in such a challenging market?
Well, the business is challenged. People are, inflation's hit everybody, including our cost of doing business. So you got to, make sure your process is in line. And, just imagine your accounting department if you didn't have a process for, checks and balances, for reviewing expenses, it would be out of whack. So your sales process has to have checkpoints. And one of the keys to anything in life is being thorough, not just assuming that somebody's doing their job, and I don't know who came up with the terminology, but inspect what you expect is a huge piece of ensuring that your process is rolling properly. Because let's face it, we have distractions in life. Your team is going to have distractions outside of work that easily come into work, and having the right culture is a big piece of, them wanting to do the job. At the same time, there has to be accountability. I think John or Nick touched on that earlier. Accountability is not a bad thing. Right. And having healthy accountability is super important. But one of the things we did going into this year, so let's take a step back. I met Aaron 2019, Star Performance Marketing referred us to you and DLP. And we didn't have a BDC at that time. Our sales team handled leads, round robin. And I could just see it just wasn't happy with the results. There was a lack of, consistent follow-up. You'd get, three touch points maybe. And the people that were hot, you took care of them. But not everybody that's in the internet process is hot. Their timeline can be slightly different. Some of them, it could be 3 months, some it could even be a year, and they're starting, knowing a year down the road, they're going to be in a different position because some debt's going to be gone or whatever the case is. So we got connected and we signed up with DLP's managed BDC, and it was a really, really good time for us. We had growth. And then I don't remember the exact year. Aaron, y'all went to your lead helm platform, And
A couple years ago.
it's been a couple years now, which of course, business changes, and that was a little bit of a shock, but fortunately we were able to hire one of DLP's agents to work for us. So the first year of that, was a learning experience for me, following it, tracking, the performance, tracking the follow-up. And our internet conversions went down in that time. And it wasn't because she wasn't doing a good job. She was doing a great job for us. It was the amount of lead volume that we had coming in wasn't able to be handled by one person. We had one of our salespeople that was moving to Colorado, and he was one of our, great employees, friend of mine, great attitude, showed up, put in the work. He was a student. He came from a manufacturing plant, and he came over to a sales business and was a complete student. And my sales manager, who I've known a long time, Ben, before he left, was like, "Hey, what about using him for a internet sales role, a BDC role?" So I got to give credit to Ben for recognizing, the value in this guy, and we could maybe use him for something. So at that point, it was going on in my mind, and how can I make this work? I don't need extra staff. I don't, want the payroll. And then I, at some point, got on with Jason with Lead Helm, and we started looking at the numbers, and I think I ended up having a call with Aaron, John, and Jason going through our internet lead business, and we were converting at like 23%, which 30 is the benchmark. And this year we've been hitting at 40% for the year to date number. That's been a huge success of having the people in the right place. Our store transactions are down 10%. So that just tells you people are busier. People are spending less time coming into the store. They've got busy lives. So why are all these DoorDash and other types of businesses succeeding? Because they're serving the customer where they're at.
Yeah.
So that really worked out well for us. I think that's a big piece of it, having the right people, but the process. If I wouldn't have had that process, I don't know where we'd be today, but I don't believe we would have been able to do it with one person. Not because they're not capable of doing a great job, but there's only so much one person can do, and teamwork really makes the dream work.
Kyle, what are you seeing with lead volume?
So our lead volume's up for the year. I have made additional investments in our budgets. So we use a Star Performance Marketing, and we really analyzed our Google spend lost by budget. And over the last few years, my loss by budget number was growing. So I had to spend more. Our cost of doing business went up. But the spend is paying off, and having now the support team to handle those leads is getting them in the store.
Yeah, good.
And so, Kyle, I love the 40%, right? So you're delivering 40% on kept appointments, right? So that we raised that benchmark, right? Just because dealers are hitting it all the time. It used to be 40% set appointments, 70% kept, and 30% delivered. And we've raised that 30 to a 40 because guys like you are doing it regularly. So you're right on the money there. Look, transactions are down. I think we're seeing that fairly consistently. Lead volume and website traffic is kind of up and down, but it's also got the variable that Kyle addressed with spend, right? If you're spending more, you're probably going to have more leads. If you spent the same as you spent last year, lead volume is probably down a bit. Okay. And some of that is really getting into the nitty gritty about website traffic relative to leads. And so what percentage of traffic actually raises their hand and gives you some information to be able to contact them?
Yeah.
Some
right.
insight. Again, back to what we said when I was referencing Chris, right? Data, right? What do we actually see? Because without data, it's hard to know what lever to pull, right? Do I need to spend more, or do I need to invest in training or staffing to convert more? Those are two different ways. And you can, if you don't know the data, you're going to spend it potentially. You got a 50-50 shot on wasting your money versus making a good investment.
Yeah, we have been spending a lot of money through Google AdWords and Facebook posts and stuff like that. And just in the last week, it's like I decided to turn it all off, and I want to see if it affects us enough, because you get a little concerned if, what you're spending. I mean, they'll take all of your money, Google and Facebook will. They'll always make sure there's an algorithm to take your money. But so it's like we need to balance, and I kind of want to just turn it off just to see if the faucet turns completely off or it only turns 20% off, because we have to, how much we're spending, we have to get so much back for our spend. And you got to be careful with that, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to learn that.
Because I think, look, one of the things I wrote down, 1974 was when you first started business, and imagining the amount of ups and downs and the good times and the tough times, and, just a third generational business like that has had to face a lot of different moments in business. And so it's forced you guys to be very innovative and adaptive into, kind of, think about what you just said, you're beta testing something because you're letting the data lead you. Chris, again, probably, pointing that out, saying, hey, we should probably look at this data point. So, sorry, Nick, wasn't taking it away from you, but I'm sure I can hear it, Chris. I know, Chris, I can hear that, bringing that to the table pretty quick. But I think, it's a good reason why you look at your data and how your leads are performing. And Chris, we were talking about some of the lead source performance, a week or two ago. But I think it's so important that we do those types of things, because we always have to. If we're stagnant and we're not trying to innovate, we're not trying to mess with the data and see what kind of things happen. Those are the types of things that can make really big changes for us in the directions we go in. And you said, Kyle, imagine if you wouldn't have looked at the data in the process of knowing you need to spend more, and where you could be if you wouldn't have made that decision, because that was an investment in money, not just time, but money. But the comment, Kyle, too, that I just want to quickly comment on real quick before you move on, John, is you talked about the amount of work that it takes. Now, you were talking specifically about digital, and I think there's other parts of the business that we could probably talk about, like, follow up in general. The type of work that it takes that you and your leadership team learned that it took, that was hard to go through that transition, but then you see where you're at now, and that was coaching and training. I know we worked a lot together, at least the team, our teams did during that time. But it's true, right, Kyle? Like, we underestimate. I know we even underestimate it sometimes and realize, okay, well, how do you scale that, or how do you make that more efficient, or how do you get the resource that you need to do that? But where I'm going with it is, you take X amount of leads and start to look through the amount of work it takes. And okay, John, you say it better than I do, but there's the compound effect, because you go to the next month and you got to make those. At least we know that it takes a certain level of cadence and touch points and the types of things it takes. Let me just say, hard work and accountability to a process that's consistent gets us this result, gets us this 40% conversion rate, right? It's getting the results that Nick and Chris, you guys are seeing through the data. But it does take, it takes that hard work, and it takes the accountability and consistency. It's worth it. It's worth it to do that. But hard work gets underestimated a lot of times.
Well, I was having this discussion with Scott a couple days ago, and he's like, and it was about hard work. And he brought up a point that we used to talk about years and years and years ago, and it's still very true today, right? We can do a reasonable amount of work, and we can get probably 80 or 85% of the business, okay? But if you want to get 100% of the business, or you want to increase over that 80 or 85, right? You have to put in almost twice the effort, okay? But that incremental 10 to 15 to 20% that you could get with really hard doubled effort all goes to the bottom line, right? Yep. That is the profit maker is that extra stretch that's right there. And it comes, think about where you guys would be today in this environment. I'm not even going to say without digital, but without culture and without process.
Yeah.
Right. We would be looking for, we don't know what's happening. I don't have data. I don't have culture. My people are leaving. I don't have a process. I can't coach. I can't do anything without the right culture and the right data and the right process to do that.
Yeah.
So those are foundational pieces.
Yeah, John, just to on that, right? I mean, the process, right, makes it so that the consistency is there. Right? So the consistency will make the performance come if you can hold that accountable. And then once you get that performance, it's the culture that creates the loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
And that loyalty is where the bottom line is. Then you don't have to work as hard when you create that loyalty, but putting it all together is the hard part.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And,
yes.
And what Chris just said also is it's what helps you keep and get good staff, right? I mean, good people want to be in a process. They don't want to just be in a willy-nilly situation. So they're going to go find the process place. So you got to have a good process to recruit, right?
People, businesses, right? They leave leaders.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it is, right? So if you've got high turnover, you're probably not losing your staff to a completely different industry. You're losing that staff to another power sports dealership that's got a better culture and a better process and better training and so forth. So that right now, that's paramount, right? Because look, good staff is hard to find. And if you get them, the retention is invaluable.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's start to bring this kind of final round. I'll let you each chime in on this, right? So just quickly, your thoughts on digital as a component of the business today and going forward. Okay, how critical is it, right? Is this a flash in the pan? Are we going to see this trend continue with people starting their journey online and trying to decide which store they want to go to ultimately? And on that, any advice or guidance that you would like to share with anybody on digital or general operations overall? You guys can take that, and anybody can go first on that one. I won't even pick the going order. So if you got something teed up, let it rip.
Yeah, I'll go with it.
All right,
I mean, digital, it's here to stay. I mean, I feel like we've been talking about it for way too long and not doing anything as a power sports marine group. So we all know it's super important, but we're relating it to like our finance department. You know, when Chris came in and helped us build a finance department 13 years ago, like we didn't have a finance department, but we talked about having a finance department for years before that. And it finally just came to the point where it's like, we have to. So that's digital, right? For 4 years, we had a products or a digital product specialist in our store, covering website leads for 80 hours a week, which was great. That was a great decision for us, but we never kept score of that person and how many leads were coming in and what we were doing with those leads. So to me, the most important thing with the digital traffic is we don't see them come through the door where you can, kind of question if the salesman, logged them on the CRM and, they're behind closed doors. So you need some kind of log book, right? And we need a report card for that person to be able to decide if things are going good or bad. For so many, I always had my Polaris sales rep come in and he goes, "How do you think digital traffic is right now?" Like, that was a part of our meeting. And I'm like, good. Like, I mean, I would just kind of off the cuff kind of give them what I thought because it was what I just felt like from yesterday. And that bothered me that I was just given like a feeling answer on something that I guess we're all deciding is important. So we finally have the traffic log and the report card with Lead Helm. Thank you to your software and you guys. And I'm excited to be able to talk about where our traffic is and what we're doing with our traffic and what the cadence looks like and be able to manage that person. And that's helped us actually create a person that wants to, that they know what their expectations are on a daily basis. So again, kudos to you guys. I mean, sincerely. I know it was a lot of hard work to get here for me to be able to say that, but it's awesome to be able to have a report card on our digital traffic.
That's it. Look, Nick, it's great to hear, right? You guys were challenged with it a little bit. It took us a little while, I think, to figure out how to work together on the right solution. But I say this to a lot of people, right? What we offer and our software is the same to anybody that wants to use it, right? We got to custom tailor it a little bit to each dealership, but it's essentially the same. Yet we see really different results. And that's not because the software is different, right? It's because people are in the stores and how they're executing and using the tool, right? So again, this comes back to leadership and process and structure and accountability. And it's been really impressive and gratifying to watch the development and the evolution of the team there. It's been, for us, it's cool.
I would say for anybody that's listening, they should call Aaron, email Aaron, text Aaron, and say, I want to do a case study for my dealership. I want to do a case study on all the digital leads for my dealership, because I heard that from a podcast with Tony and Sam that Aaron was on the podcast or the GarageCast, and he said that he's willing to do case studies for anybody. And that's where we kind of started to work through some stuff. Like, Aaron, look in my closet and see what I'm not doing correctly and help me, right? And that's what happened.
No, thanks for that, Nick. Yeah, it was a pleasure doing it. And I think, whether a dealer does it on their own or, if anybody ever wanted to contact me and have a case study done and kind of look through it. But I think it definitely opens up, it helps us believe in the opportunity, right, Nick? It helps us believe that the opportunity exists. Goes back to the data that Chris, I loved always talking to you about. And the data starts telling you that there's truly opportunity. It's a spark. It ignites wanting to make a change. So no, thanks, Nick. I had a pleasure doing it with you. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of touch on that, where this industry is going with the digital part of it. I mean, it's not going anywhere, right? It's going to continue to be part of our business. Now, how much of that it is we'll see in the future. But when you go back, 20 groups, the Spaders, Garage Composites have been along for how many years? And auto groups have been talking about this for, 20 years now, not 5 years, but being able to work and go, okay, where with each business, because again, power sports, you can have a one line, single line to a multi-line to, marine and power sports in the same building, right? So you have all these different pieces that it's hard to just put a point on a piece of paper and go, that's where you're working towards, because not everybody is the same there, right?
Yes.
How can you cater it to your store to go, man, this is how my store is performing. I've got a benchmark that I can put on a piece of paper and go, how do I get better or worse from here? And how do I make a decision? And, whether it's a lead source that you're using or not using, or, go, man, I didn't think about that one, right? Just as a resource, just to be able to put it on one place. Yeah. I mean, that's where I really see that the beneficial part of the digital world.
You're dead on, Chris. We have to manage digital really with the same level of scrutiny and intensity and care that we've always managed the traffic log and the floor, right? What's the traffic? Do I have enough? What are my percentages at all the different steps? Do I have enough track? Am I spending the right amount of money? Do I have enough salespeople? All those kinds of things. We have to apply that same level of thought onto digital, because it's a big piece of the business. For some dealers, it's half their sales are starting online. We're delivering them in the store. Well, that's great. So Kyle, where's you got a lot of head nodding over there? So the guys are on point there. I would assume you're agreeing with some of that.
Yeah. So I'm going to say digital's here to stay and grow. Our customers that have kind of been in the business, that are our core, that are retiring out, they're the last of the, going to call or show up on the showroom and do all their research. I think everybody beyond that is in this new digital world. They all got cell phones that they can search and explore. They got ads being teed up to them. So unless there's a huge shift in American culture, digital's here. That investment needs to be focused on and continued. Look at all the the businesses that are growing, and it's all convenience businesses.
Yeah.
You've got these pop-up drink shops that are, get you in and out quick. You've got delivery of groceries to your house. Amazon has been doing it for years, but now Walmart has competed with them. When you go to the store, Nick talked about it. Do you want somebody to check you out, or do you want to go to a cash register? So convenience in our culture is huge. So you got to be prepared for those customers and prepared to take them on and give them a killer experience. And it's different than giving an in-store experience.
Agree.
But I would say if you don't know where to start, if you don't know how to do it, find people that do. As leaders, we have to hire those around us that complement us, not that are identical to us. Or if you can't hire it, find a resource like Lead Helm that can guide you and show you the data and give you not just data, but benchmarks. I love, Chris, you talked about Spader, and, I'm in Harley PG group, which I finally joined in 2019, and we had never been a part of one. If somebody's doing it and it can be done,
right,
you can either get really close. Markets are different, so everybody's market's a little different, so it's not going to be identical results, but you got to start asking, how are they doing it? What can I do to do it, instead of it's never been done here, it can't be done.
Yeah.
What's the path to the yes?
Yeah.
I love that what you said, Kyle. Sorry, John, real quick, because what's really amazing to me is I've had the opportunity in my career through Scott Fisher Prizes to work inside of power sports stores and some Harley Davidson dealerships. In my opinion, I always thought that there was really no difference. The type of buyer can be different, or the product that we're selling obviously can be a little bit different. But some of the hard work, the strategy, a lot of things we're talking about, and it's just interesting hearing right now Nick and Chris inside multi-line power sports dealerships, Kyle inside a large number one high performing Harley dealership, and listen to the consistencies amongst why culture is important, why process is important. I won't go down the whole list, but to me, I just love what you said, Kyle. It's like, if somebody else is doing it, it's possible. And then you got you or we, if you're listening, or we here, we got to make a decision whether you want to work that hard. It goes back to John's comment. Because one thing I know, you guys know, I ran a smaller Harley dealership down in Naples, Florida. And I'll tell you, it was hard work, right, John? It was just a hard market. We had a very big sister store in Fort Myers. Where I'm going with that, though, is that Naples Harley dealership. It was hard work, but you leaned on resources and you drove process and you drove that consistency. It's exciting to hear that there's been so much progression through that hard work that you guys are doing. It's really good.
Yeah, no, and I think the one takeaway from that whole thing, right? There's a lot of takeaways in the entirety of the content that's been shared today. But Kyle, your point is there is a known process, right? There's a way to be really good in the digital space. So you can learn it from other dealers, you can learn it from a moderator, you can learn it from us, but you don't have to go through trial and error if you don't want to. There's a quicker path to getting good at this, and that is to reach out to some resources who understand it. So happy to help anybody if that's where we want to go. But gentlemen, thank you all very much. It's great to know the stories a little bit more, and again, the similarities of what you do and how you think about the business all leads to why these stores are performing well right now, and probably performing better than most in the market. And so that's important. Thanks for sharing that information. Thanks for taking time out of your day to spend it with us. And otherwise, Aaron, always good to see you. And everybody else, enjoy, reach out if you need us, and have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for the time.